The hall buzzed with the excitement of the crowd, a sea of suited attendees chatting and adjusting their ties as they waited for the keynote speaker. The Youth Leadership Forum had been billed as one of the most important events of the year, a stage for the brightest young leaders and established names to share ideas and discuss solutions for the future. The space was nothing short of grand, vaulted ceilings adorned with intricate carvings, gilded railings along the balcony levels, and soft golden lights bathing the stage. Barron Trump sat near the back of the room, shoulders hunched slightly forward, as if he were trying to shrink into his seat. He scanned the crowd through lowered eyes. Everyone seemed comfortable, even confident. Most were close to his age, young professionals in their 20s or eager high schoolers brimming with energy. But there was one difference. None of them had to carry the weight of a name like his. For Barron, the Trump name had always been more burden than privilege. People saw the name before they saw the person. To most, he wasn't Barron. He was the youngest child of Donald Trump, a living symbol of one of the most polarizing families in modern history. He had learned to keep his head down, to avoid the inevitable judgment, the mocking whispers, and the relentless online scrutiny. But earlier that week, staying invisible had failed him. It started with the stumble. Barron had been attending a high-profile charity gala with his mother, Melania. Cameras flashed endlessly, as they always did at events like these. As they descended the marble staircase toward the reception area, Barron's long legs tangled in the hem of his suit pants, sending him sprawling forward. The sound of his fall echoed in the vast room, silencing the chatter of the crowd. He scrambled to his feet, cheeks burning, but the damage was done. The laughter started almost immediately, quiet at first but growing louder. The next day, a grainy video of the fall appeared online, spreading like wildfire. Within hours, memes mocking him began to flood social media. "Even gravity doesn't respect the Trump family," read one post. "Barron Trump. The tallest, clumsiest guy in the room," said another. The cruelty of it stunned him. He had grown used to seeing his father criticized, sometimes fairly, sometimes not. But this was different. This was personal. He was mocked for his height, his quiet demeanor, even for his facial expressions in photos taken years ago. It felt as though the entire world had turned against him, laughing at him for existing. He stayed up late that night, scrolling through post after post until the tears came, hot and unwanted. His mother had found him the next morning, sitting silently in the kitchen with his phone face down on the table. She didn't ask questions. She didn't have to. "You are stronger than this," she said simply, placing a hand on his shoulder. His father's reaction was more cavalier. "So they're making jokes? That's nothing. Try having every comedian in America talk about your hair for decades. You learn to laugh along." But Barron couldn't laugh. The comments stayed with him, cutting deeper each time he replayed them in his mind. For years, he had convinced himself that staying silent and out of sight would protect him. Now he wasn't so sure. The Youth Forum was supposed to be his father's stage, not his. The former president had been invited to deliver the keynote speech, but a flight delay had left the event organizers scrambling. As the whispers of the situation spread, Barron remained seated, content to watch the chaos unfold from the safety of his row near the back. Then, without warning, a coordinator approached him. "Barron," she whispered, crouching beside him, "your father's flight won't make it. We need someone to fill in until he arrives. Could you?" "Me?" Barron's voice cracked slightly. "Yes," she said hurriedly, glancing at the stage. "Just for a few minutes. Say something about leadership or resilience. Anything." His instinct was to refuse. Public speaking was not his strength. The idea of standing on a stage with every eye on him and every phone ready to record made his stomach churn. He opened his mouth to decline, but then he caught sight of a few faces in the audience. Some were looking at him curiously, others whispering behind their hands. He knew what they were thinking. He's going to say no. He's going to run from this, just like he always does. For a moment, fear gripped him, but then somewhere deep within, another feeling began to rise: defiance. He was tired of being underestimated, tired of letting others define who he was. "I'll do it," he said, his voice steadier than he felt. The walk to the stage was the longest of his life. The lights were blinding, and the murmurs from the crowd seemed deafening. As he approached the podium, his mind raced with everything that could go wrong. What if he froze? What if he said the wrong thing? What if they laughed at him again? He gripped the edges of the podium, his palms slick with sweat. The room fell silent, and for a moment he couldn't breathe. Then he spoke. "I know what you're all thinking," he began, his voice low but steady. "Why is he up here?" The crowd chuckled nervously. "The truth is, I've spent most of my life avoiding being up here, or anywhere in the spotlight, really. But sometimes life has other plans." He took a deep breath and pressed on, his voice growing stronger with each word. "This week, I became a punchline. I made a mistake, one that everyone here has probably made at some point. But because of my last name, that mistake became a joke for the entire world." The room was silent now, the weight of his words hanging in the air. For days, I let it get to me. I let myself believe that their words defined me. But then I realized something. Falling down is something we all do. It's what happens next that defines us. Do we let the fall break us, or do we get back up and keep going? He paused, scanning the room. Leadership isn't about being perfect. It's about being human. It's about choosing kindness when it's easier to be cruel and strength when it's easier to give up. This week taught me that the strongest thing you can do is rise after a fall and help others rise with you. The applause started slowly, then grew to a deafening roar. For the first time, Barron felt the weight of the past week lift from his shoulders. He had taken the thing that had humiliated him and turned it into a moment of connection and purpose. The speech went viral within hours. News outlets praised his poise and maturity, while young people across the country shared his words with captions like, "This is what leadership looks like." Even those who had mocked him earlier began to rethink their actions, with some posting public apologies. Schools played his speech during assemblies, and online forums buzzed with discussions about bullying, resilience, and the importance of empathy. Barron began receiving invitations to speak at other events, each one a chance to share the lesson he had learned. That strength isn't about never falling, it's about rising and helping others do the same. Years later, people would look back on that night as the moment Barron Trump stepped out of the shadow of his last name and into his own light. Not as the son of a president, but as a young man who showed the world that kindness, resilience, and courage are the true measures of leadership. Thanks for watching. If this story inspired you, please like, share, and subscribe for more uplifting content. Let's keep spreading positivity. See you in the next one.